Welcome back to Mimi's Organic Eats. Today we're making this spooky rose Halloween cake. This daringly dark cake is made using black cocoa powder and activated charcoal, and it has no artificial colors. It's decorated with a haunted garden theme, and it is perfect for Halloween. Let me show you guys how to make it. First, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. In a large mixing bowl, add 3/4 cup of canola oil and 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. Next, add in 3 large eggs. Then add in 326 grams of cane sugar and 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Whisk until combined completely. Last, add in the dry ingredients: 308 grams of all-purpose flour, 85 grams of black cocoa powder that's been sifted, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Fold together with a spatula until you have a smooth and cohesive cake batter. While I'm doing this in just a mixing bowl, you can also use your hand mixer or your stand mixer for the cake batter too. Either works. Next, line 3 6-inch cake pans with parchment paper. Then transfer the cake batter to each pan. I like to weigh these so that they're even. They're going to weigh about 400 grams each. This is important whenever making a naked cake because we want to have the cake layers look the same, but you also want to have them bake up properly as well. Then we're going to bake the cakes at 350 degrees for 35 to 37 minutes or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. So once the cakes are cooled, now it's time to make the black frosting. So this is a chocolate buttercream frosting, but I'm using a black cocoa powder just like we used in the cake. This is going to help give it a rich chocolate flavor as well as a dark color. And then we're also going to add in some food grade activated charcoal to make it super black. So we're starting out with 226 grams of either butter or vegetable shortening, either works. I just have shortening today. Next, we're going to sift our powdered sugar into the mixing bowl. So we're going to sift 454 grams of powdered sugar. Next, we're going to add in 57 grams of our black cocoa powder. Then we have 28 grams of activated charcoal. And next, we're going to add in some vanilla extract. And then last, we're going to add some heavy whipping cream. And you guys always want to start out with less liquid whenever making a buttercream frosting. Then you can always add more as needed as the frosting whips. Now we're going to mix this on low to avoid splattering. Then as soon as everything's combined, we're going to speed the mixer up to high and whip until it's light and fluffy. Feel free to add more heavy whipping cream if the frosting feels dry. And you want to make sure that you scrape down the sides of the bowl and the paddle partway through mixing. This is going to ensure you get a nice, smooth buttercream frosting. So now that our frosting is ready, we're going to get our decorating tools. And we don't need a lot for this cake. So we're going to need 2 piping bags, and then we're going to need just 3 decorating tips. So the first decorating tip I'm using is a Teco tip number 827. This is what we're going to use to pipe the frosting in between each cake layer and also for the big roses on top. And then we have a mini star tip, and this is a Teco tip number 30, and we're going to fill in with tiny roses on top of the cake with this. And then we have a Teco tip number 68, and this is going to be our leaf tip. So for a Teco tip number 827, I'm going to put this in its own piping bag because this is where the majority of the frosting is going to go. And you guys know I love using a milkshake cup for filling frosting bags. It's so easy. So then I'm going to put a coupler in the second piping bag because we don't need to waste a third piping bag because we're just going to use these 2 other tips just a little bit, so it's easy to just use a coupler. So if you guys don't know what a coupler is, it's a 2-piece decorating tool. This is going to allow us to change out the decorating tips while using the same frosting bag. So whenever you're using a frosting where it's the same color, but you're just going to need to use different tips, then this is a great tool to have. So with the coupler, you put the bigger part of the tool inside the bag, then cut the hole, then you put the tip on the outside of the bag, and this is where it screws on. So now we can easily change between the little rose tip and the leaf tip. So we're going to fill pretty much the majority of the frosting into this piping bag with a Teco tip number 827. Then we're just going to put a little bit in the other piping bag. And we're going to pipe all the frosting out of the Teco tip number 827 first. So if you have extra, we can always put it in the second bag as well. So you don't really need to be too concerned about how much to put in each bag. So go ahead and grab your cake layers and your cake stand or whatever you're going to put this cake on. You guys don't need a cake spinner for this because we're not frosting the whole thing because this is a naked cake, so you don't need a turntable for this. And then you want to get your marshmallow fluff. I'm using Toonie Mooney organic marshmallow fluff, which is our favorite here. This is going to go inside the center of the cake. And it's also what's going to decorate the outside of the cake as the spider webs. So now it's time to remove the cake from the pans. So first you're going to add a little dollop of frosting right on top of the cake plate. This is going to ensure that the bottom layer sticks to the cake plate. And now I always put the first cake layer bottom side down. This is going to ensure that it's flush with the cake plate. Now we're going to take our piping bag with the Techo tip number 827 and pipe a border around the edge of this cake. Now we're going to take our marshmallow fluff and just add a big spoonful right in the middle. And then we're going to spread this around evenly. And it will kind of swirl with the black color because it'll touch the frosting on the sides. That's totally okay. Next, on top of the second cake layer, I like to do this bottom side up. This is going to ensure you get a nice flat top of your cake. Now we're just going to do the same thing and pipe a big border around the edge of the cake. Then we're going to fill the center again with our marshmallow cream. Now we're going to top with our last cake layer, and I like to do this bottom side up. This is going to ensure that you get a nice flat top on your cake. Now we're still using the frosting bag with the Techo tip number 827. We're going to pipe large roses on top of this cake. I like to start on the outer edges of the cake and then work my way around and then fill in the middle. For everywhere that you want to pipe a rose, you're going to start in the center of where you want the rose to be and then pipe a spiral circle and stop when you have a big enough rose to your liking. These can be any size that you guys want. Now that the cake is topped with the large roses, we're going to go into the little spots and corners and fill in with the Techo tip number 30 and just make little small roses. Next, we're going to swap out the coupler for the leaf tip, and then we're just going to fill in with some leaves. Now that our cake is fully frosted, it's time to take the marshmallow cream and we're just going to drizzle it on top to make it look like spider webs. We want it to look like stringy and kind of like spider web-like, so you want to kind of go with caution with this. And now we have this spooky rose Halloween cake, or I also like to call it a haunted garden cake. This cake is so fun and it's so simple to make, and you don't need any artificial colors to do it. So because this is a naked style cake, which means there's no frosting on the sides, it can dry out easily. So if you guys want to prep this for a Halloween party and make it ahead of time, you can make the cake layers the day before. Wrap them in plastic wrap, and then they're going to be ready to assemble and decorate this cake the day of your event. And if you want to assemble the whole cake in advance, just be sure to store it under a cake dome. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and leave a comment below. And if you want more festive holiday desserts without artificial colors, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join me next time in the kitchen.